Hello there, Niiamah, Sean here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. We have an incredible roundtable set up for you, and I cannot wait for you to get to meet Adam and Sheri all throughout this. Let's get it. Give ourselves outliers a chance to get to know you. Sheri, let's start with you. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Yeah, absolutely, Niiamah. I'm so excited and grateful to be here. I'm Sheri Chaney Jones, and I am, for the past 25 years, been on a quest to help mission-driven organizations. So that's anyone who's in the business of changing lives and changing circumstances to use data to solve complex social problems. So I tell people I'm creating an impact measurement movement where we look at data that is aligned to missions and using that to um, tackle really important social change.
Thank you for this, Sheri. There's a really cool component of can you mind if I ask just a quick clarifying
Yeah,
component of this?
absolutely.
Okay, so for the last 25 years, have you been supporting this group of people? Or have you been in the impact measurement components of it for the last 25 years?
Yeah, so I've been in and around impact measurement, doing impact measurement for the past 25 years. I've done
Oh,
it in
that's
two
cool.
ways. I was a government funder for about 10 years, so worked in government. And then I started, I've actually am now a serial entrepreneur. I've started two companies, both with the core of impact, helping government nonprofits measure and track their impact. One is a consulting firm and the other is a software company. So I wear a lot of hats, have a lot of experience, but at the core of what I'm doing, it's really to help solve complex social problems by leveraging data.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks for being here, Sherry.
Yeah,
I'm excited to
absolutely.
play with. All right, Adam. Let's get a chance to get to know you. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, I'm a psychologist, and my whole game is around trying to reintroduce psychology into the education system, uh, looking at pedagogy and teaching practice, and reintroducing psychology so that teachers and students can benefit more. My aim is to get some sort of community-based learning going on for schools so that people can enjoy each other's company more and learn from each other in a more productive way. If you want to put it into a nutshell, essentially, I just want schools to be happier places, but I use psychology to do that.
I love this here. Uh, it's really what's really cool for me as I'm listening is like the vehicles of change that you are each using
Mhm.
in order to create the impact that you're looking to go through. Like I'm hearing psychology, I'm
Yeah.
hearing data. For me, I'm like it's conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I
Well,
feel
I'm
like that's what you do.
also in a I didn't say that in my introduction, but I'm an industrial and organizational psychologist. So that's how I
Hmm.
got my start and my passion related to what's the combination between work, people, and data, and how do we in psychology, and how do we do that to create high performing teams? So I think this is gonna be a great conversation.
Yeah, let's play off that because I find like we typically have a multi hyphens between like what we do. We're very multi hyphenated, but also like the experiences that led us to this point have all come from different areas. I think that Sherry, that element of when you were talking about the three different components of it all and how
Mhm.
they all come together, I think that's really something that our outliers listening are trying to figure out for themselves, right? They're like, I have these like all these different experiences in life, and because of it, it's helped me see that there's a different way of doing things than the way that
Mhm.
other people are. Let's starting from that as the premise here. I'm really curious for you, like, how did you all figure out how to like kind of thread the needle on this? This is actually me really being curious about it because I'm still trying to figure that part. How did you thread the needle in terms of the messaging and letting like helping people be able to come on board with the rather different take that you might have around this approach.
I'm quite happy to start that conversation. For me, it was stepping away from what the core profession did. I'm based in England, as I said it in our previous conversation, and in England, we have an expectation to do a lot of assessment work. And what that looks like is me going into a room, working one to one with a child. And I thought, as time goes on, this isn't having the desired impact that I wanted. I want schools to really thrive and for teachers to enjoy the role and like all countries across the world, education's getting squeezed in terms of funding, and teachers were getting more and more stressed. And I thought, I have the knowledge and the skill set to help these people out, but I need to change my role. So I left government work and set up for myself and went and sold, basically sold myself to a bunch of schools and said, look, this is the way I'm going to work. I'm going to work with your head teacher. I'm going to work directly with your teachers. I will do a little bit of work with children, but that is my focus is on helping your teachers help the children. And it was looking at my skill set, but reframing my role is what I did.
Yeah, I think Adam, and probably most entrepreneurs have a similar story, or many. Um, I too came from a different space. So like I mentioned, I was an industrial and organizational psychologist. I originally thought I was going to design selection tests for a living. So help big corporations identify, who are going to be the high performers. I had a dyslexia as a child. I imagine I still do, but and I always was tested, right? And labels were put on me. So I like this kind of synergy between us all. And I was always fascinated by how are these adults using this information to, seemingly believe they were predicting my path. And maybe I didn't really understand it back when I was 10 years old, but it led to a curiosity in me, which then got me involved in how do we use data to predict performance. But my very first job out of graduate school was working with a consulting firm that had projects with the Ohio Department of Mental Health and the Social Security Administration. And we were creating a tool that helped case managers and caseworkers working with people with a lot of barriers to work with severe and persistent mental illness, or a lot of barriers to work. And we were creating this tool that used all the things I knew about psychology and industrial and organizational psychology and people and work and fit. And it was helping these psychologists or these case managers place people into jobs where they could thrive. And so for me, it was like, oh, this light bulb went off in my head. That's like, I can use my passion for data and prediction and put it into the social sector. And when I got into my first, career government job, when I served as the deputy director of performance evaluation for the Franklin County Domestic and Juvenile Courts, they had never had anyone in that role before. And as I started to put in the structures in place to evaluate the impact of our programs, we learned that we were making young kids worse. And so, the adults that were running these programs, they didn't want to be making kids worse. Like, they wanted to be making kids better, but they just hadn't really thought through their program design. And it was through the power of data and through the power of evaluation that we were able to pivot and change things and then start to see young kids thrive and get better. But it was that story, that first kind of early career story, that made me ultimately leave state government to help as many nonprofits as possible have insights and have this data at their fingertips, because I don't want any kid to not thrive. Very similar to you, Adam. Like, I want these institutions to be successful, and we need to be managing to the things that matter most to us. And the best way to do that is to measure it. And so that's the movement I've been on
Sherry,
for 20 years.
you said something quite interesting there. Did you say you were diagnosed with dyslexia? Someone did an assessment on you when you were a child.
Yes.
How did it feel? Because do you feel that that was the right diagnosis?
I yes, probably, because I have 4 children now, and a few of them
Yeah.
have the same learning challenges. But what I will say is that they did not do a good job back then. Hopefully they do it better now. It's really communicating to me that it's actually a superpower. Like, yes, having dyslexia is a learning disability when it comes to knowing how to
Mm.
spell. For me, at least, that's how it
Yeah.
showed up. But it meant my brain was wired differently,
Mm.
and that's a superpower.
Quite
But it took
creative.
me about 25 years to convince well, not that long. I think I was about 25 years old. So it took about 15 years for me to realize that it didn't mean I was dumb.
Yeah, but dyslexia assessments obviously it comes from big data, and then
Yeah.
they put you onto a point on a graph and say you're
Mhm.
dyslexic. But you you obviously have that experience with big data, but what made you reframe how data is used in order to get these outcomes that you're talking about? Because
Mhm.
you said it wasn't being used in the right way, but now you feel like it is. What's different about your approach and how you apply big data versus what was happening before?
Well, I think now it's not about so maybe as a young person I was labeled with dyslexia, but that wasn't the right outcome, right? My diagnosis or my disability, it wasn't the outcome that we should be managing to, right? We should be managing to where can Sheri excel? Well, guess what? Sheri had
Mhm.
to figure that out herself. Um, but now I think competency-based education and competency-based learning and personalized learning is a movement that is very exciting to me, where we're kind of understanding that just because a student has ADHD or dyslexia or name the host of ways our brains are wired differently, we're not managing to the diagnosis anymore. Hopefully, what we're doing is we're managing to how do we instruct that child to get to the outcomes where that child can thrive in their life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you're trying to do like a strengths-based approach.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
There's something
Yeah.
that shows up in this that I actually want to invite you outliers to like hear in this year. I love this element of like we're not managing to the diagnosis. And outliers, I'm gonna ask you to just take a pause right now for yourself and think about like what are some of the things that right now you are either trying to solve a problem for or you're thinking about or you're managing towards right now and see like right in that one statement, Sarah, I feel like you gave us a whole lot of space to be able to actually orient ourselves toward like the vision of what we actually want, right?
Mhm.
And like because I heard it's like we're not trying to just like manage that. We actually the underlying question is how can we help Sherry excel in the world, right?
Mhm.
And let's make sure that we're building solutions. Let's put our possibility thinking toward that and all of our different experiences toward that. Adam, Sherry, anything that comes to mind when I put it in that frame?
Yeah. When you we're trying to get when Sherry and I were talking, we were talking about we want every child to thrive, and it sounds like Sherry's trying to overcome a lot of social barriers, and I'm more within schools. Obviously, social barriers are within school as well, but in my line of work, it's looking at child development in context. So I always talk to my teachers about psycho development. You want your curriculum or your syllabus to be psycho developmentally informed. That's a long way of saying of stages, not ages. So if you've got a class that has a demographic profile, say you've got a high number of students with dyslexia, you want to set up your lessons in that way. And I always get my teachers to think about what sort of preambles or what sort of precursors need to happen first. Do you need to do some sort of regulation activity? Something like a century based stuff, or do you need to have a little 5 minute talk about how everyone's feeling? Like, Niiamah, you at the beginning of our conversation, you took a couple of minutes to make us feel at ease. What does that do? And that allows me and Sherry to one, identify a bit with each other because we know a little bit about each other now and we can talk more freely. How do we do that with children? And what happens when we do that with children? They start to identify with each other when they go, oh, me and Bob and Jimmy went and played a basketball game together last week. I feel more comfortable with them. So whenever I'm doing geography or maths with them, I'm more comfortable with getting things wrong in front of them because I like them now. And it's those sort of little wins that I feel like the psychodevelopmentally informed part is the soft way of overcoming those social barriers. We talk a lot about funding, and they're all important things, but
Mhm.
the psychology underneath how we relate to each other is incredibly important. And the softness doesn't mean not useful.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think it's really fascinating because the question that Niiamah asked was related to how what is some challenge or how can we think about that end result or that end in mind. So you're thinking about student learning and thriving and building these great cultures and communities where kids feel safe and can take risks and have the right mindsets in psychology. I think about the same thing in terms of growing my business. I've been blessed to recently create a partnership with Microsoft, uh, and have this global,
Congratulations.
thank you, like this
Well
global
created.
partnership with them. And um, but to think about that in the mindset that who's the person I need to become to take this movement forward, right? And I know this podcast is all about outliers, and I think that's anyone who is wanting to create a movement has to do a lot of that internal personal mindset work too, related to like, who am I to do this? And I had to get to a place that if not me, who? And that's what inspired me to say yes to growing a software and a tech company to scale this across the world. Um,
Sheri,
'Cause
on your
yeah,
dyslexia journey, I'm
yeah.
guessing you learned a lot of resilience from overcoming that. I want to say overcoming that label, but you might not see the journey that way. How do you see? How did you build your resilience?
Oh, well, I mean, I've done a lot of resilience research on my own. And one of the things that we see is that it really only takes, one trusted adult that believes in you for a child to build resiliency. And I had a lot of trusted adults in my life who believed in me. So, um, I guess I was fortunate enough to just have a lot of people in my life who didn't define me by my diagnosis. They encouraged me to take risks and not be labeled by it. And I don't know. I didn't at the time I didn't feel like I was overcoming anything. I just felt like I was doing the right next thing.
This is I like that component. Like we have a saying in our community, we call it like it's just a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And where it's like honestly, well created with the global partnership with Microsoft, right? And there's like two components of it that I actually want to keep like double clicking on because I what I'm appreciating about this conversation that you're both allowing us to go to not just like the glitz and the glamour of like, oh wow, like you got this, you created this partnership. But you're like, I actually had to go through like doing the work is one thing, but
Mhm.
becoming the person who would like lead this, and like that's another part of the game. I think that that's as you're saying it, Shay, I'm realizing like that's really a big part of the conversation that I'm interested in. Like how how do you how do you keep growing
Mhm.
into these new things where like eventually it's just another day? Like yes, we're working on this. Yes, we've been blessed with this opportunity, but
Mhm.
like or Adam, you're going into these schools and you're changing like the way that these organizations are thinking about it and they're going into their classrooms. It's I get curious about those moments where you had to, let's just call it level up or to become something more than you were in the past. I'm very curious, like you might even have like a process that you go through now. Like there's certain things now that I can like see, I'm like, okay, I need to go in. Oh, it turns out that for me, it's I keep running into belonging issues. I'm like, if I do this, then no one else, then I'll be all alone. Like it always, almost always comes back to that for me. And so once I'm able to see that that's the problem, I'm like, oh, okay, like I have my set of tools to go around it, or to embrace it. But I'm curious about like on the becoming journey as y'all keep leveling up. What are the things that you have found that have worked for you, and or what are the ways that you even like identify where like, oh, this is actually a level jump, and something I need to become more rather than I just need to do more. Does that question make sense in the way that I'm asking it?
Yeah, it feels like you're asking an identity question there, like what makes us us, so to speak. And the way I'd answer that is it depends
Adam,
what.
I'm gonna add a little bit in here, right? So it's not just what makes you you, but like as you keep growing, as you keep finding yourselves in different places, and like I remember the day when I heard fear of success, not fear of failure. So like as things keep working, these ideas that you just had, like they keep working. How does your identity continue to grow with the opportunities that you find yourself in? I think that's the nuance that I'm curious about.
Yeah. For me, the doctor training was a big identity shift for me because anyone listening who's been through that journey, you get scrutinized to a degree that you didn't think was possible. And it's your work has to stand up on its own, basically. So you have to cover every corner. 10 different theorists could look at it, and if it doesn't hold up, you have to go back to the drawing board. Tenured professors look at it and they just keep throwing it back at you. And it's that I can't remember who said it, but it was that get up ability to keep getting knocked down and keep getting back up, because what you want in life is so powerful that you will just keep getting back up. And for me, the most important thing was one, becoming a psychologist. It's what I wanted to be since I was a young child. I don't know why I knew that. I just did. And the second thing is the intrinsic value systems that you come with. A lot of people enter into the world of work wanting to do some form of good, and it's holding on to that. So you build your own resilience from that get up ability. But why are you developing that resilience? And that has to link to a value system. And for me, reflective practice is really important. So you stop every so often and think, Niiamah, this entire podcast is a reflective practice. Why do I do what I do? Sheri and I spoke about it is to overcome those social barriers. We're taking two different methods about it. Sheri's using big data and I'm using systems theory. But that's what makes me me, and the belonging part and the becoming part that you spoke about, Niiamah.
Sherry, I want to hear your response. I'm over here like smiling because I'm like, oh, Adam caught me. Like this whole thing is a reflective practice.
Yeah.
Sherry,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Yeah, well, I think for me, there is a book I read early on in my entrepreneurial journey, because that's when it really hit me. Like when I was in government, I had a lot of confidence. I, was excelling at what I did, but when I said yes to the entrepreneurial call, that's a whole, right? You talk about an outlier, that especially a woman, that made me an outlier
And this
right
is
there.
like 20, like how many years ago did you say yes to
15
this?
years ago, I
15
left the
years ago.
government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like to
Yeah.
like just also get that time frame in there because it's like
Yes. Yeah.
it's not the time we're thinking now, it's
Yes.
before.
Before, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a huge, that was scary. And I had two little kids, and I've had two more in the last 15 years.
And the height of the global recession couldn't have been
Yes, yes.
comfortable.
It was 2010. It was, not the time to start a business, but it was for me. I just felt the call. So I had read a book by John Maxwell called Failing. I think it was like Failing Forward. Sorry if I've got the wrong title.
I think there's one up there called Feeling Upwards, is it?
Yeah, maybe. But there,
I don't know, something like that.
the line that stuck with me was that the only way to fail is to quit. So that's what I tell myself all the time. It's like, I'm on this quest to create, and back then I wanted to be, I wanted to create this consulting firm. And then 9 years into the journey, it was like, no, you really now need to develop a software company. So that was the next inflection point. By the time I was happy, like, I got this successful consulting firm, it's going great. Now the call was, no, you really got to go build a software company. And that was like, oh, now that's a new identity that I have to say yes to. But I just would say that mantra to myself, that the only way to fail is to quit. So if I just keep taking the next right step, everything is going to work out. I'm also a very faithful person, so my faith grounds me as well. I do a lot of journaling. I love to journal. I love to write. But those are my kind of secrets.
It was interesting you said the only failure is to quit, and I would tend to agree with you. But there is, I don't even know if he classifies himself as a psychologist, but Mark Manson, the fellow that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't know if we're allowed to curse in this one. And he would say that it's about keeping it to what's core to you. And it sounds like this consultancy firm was core to you, and then your core shifted a bit and it needed to be something else. And then in another 15 years, it might shift again.
Oh yeah, no, I already know where it's headed. Like it's become more about, I mean, the measurement movements will stay, but now I have visions of, oh, wouldn't it be great to, someday help other female entrepreneurs overcome their mindset blocks to these high growth tech companies. And, anyway, I just know it's going to be a fun lifelong journey. And that's been an interesting, as I'm in my middle age, just realizing that life does not end in your 40s.
Oh, I had a conversation just the other week with someone who like blew my mind. So she was talking uh, about her father and some of the things like the relationships that he got into to like having multiple long-term relationships like over like 7 years each after age 80, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and like this like creating new like business and opportunity again after age 80 that became like a global billion-dollar empire, you know. And when I had that, I'm going through this process of trying to change my relationship to time because I'm like I want everything now and I'm already behind and like there's all
Yeah,
these things that come on. I'm like, wait a minute, like the game is so long,
yeah.
and like the best is not even like now. Like there's so much more that can happen even later. So as
Mhm.
you say that here, I'm grateful. I'm grateful here because I do think about that often. I'm like, wow, what happens when we put another like, you know, 30, 40, 50 years of just not quitting, you know,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
continuing
yeah.
to build on this. And this is part of the reason why I like to have these conversations. It's fun for me because while this is a reflective practice, the other part of this is I look at it from the standpoint of moving from unconscious competence to the things that we do without even knowing like why we do it or how we do it. It's almost like driving a car. Like sometimes you can get in a car and you just show up at the next place. You're like, I wasn't even really thinking about it. To like being able to distill out again what it is that you're doing and in a way that can help other people manage it too. So like
Mhm.
I love this conversation is really energizing to me as I think about like, okay, we're having this conversation now. Like the games that each of you are playing actually have no end to it. The games that each of you are playing like continue to level up. And what's really fun, Sarah, I saw your smile when you were talking about what was coming next, you know,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
because what is his name? It's Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan talks
Oh, yeah.
about like he's like
Mhm.
it's like you're like the future being greater than your present, you know,
Yeah.
and I could see that and I can experience that with you all right now. That's
Yeah.
fun. That's fun. All right. So let's go on here. Like we said, the only way to fail is to quit. Like let's talk about like some of the harder times then. Right. So like what's a project, what's either something you made a big bet on that had you like just like, you know, I had a manager who called it having sweaty palms, you
Mhm.
know, that gave you sweaty palms. Or something where it's like actually like if I had quit here, it would have definitely had been a failure. Like I'm trying to figure out like one of those failure moments that I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out how to reframe in this conversation. But I'd love to get into that here because I'm thinking about any outlier that is in this space where they're like, oh, it's not working out, or wow, I'm about to take on something. And realistically, I feel like there's a part of me that knows that like I'm in this kind of shift right now. So something about me like having to call out the truth rather than rather than pretending that it's like it's only for them. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I would love to hear. Like, tell us about a time where it didn't seem like it was going to work out, and some of the things that came from it. Either of you feeling called on that?
So I have a great story, and I don't know that I've ever shared this on a recorded podcast. So
Mhm.
here it goes.
Yeah.
Um, when I was launching Sure Impact, which is a technology company, I went to my clients in my consulting base, and I said to them, "Hey, I'm thinking about creating this technology platform. Um, these are the things it will do. Are you interested?" And I got 10 organizations to say yes, and they each gave me their first year license fee upfront on a PowerPoint deck. So I now take their money, and in the legal contract that they all signed with me was like, okay, I'm going to build this technology. It's going to do these 4 things. Once it's live in the world, and I had like a 365-day timeline to get it V1 done. Once it was in the world, they could use it for a whole year without paying for it. And then after that year, they could decide if they wanted to renew their license or walk away. And it also said that they didn't have to like it, it just had to do those things. But if I didn't do it, they would get their money back. All right. So that's where I took this giant gamble. So I had their money, but if I didn't finish the project, I owed them all that money back. I am not a coder, so I had to hire a team to bring my vision to life. And um, I had to and so anyway, and I had my own money invested. So I had whatever money I had saved, I had the money they put in. So I'm like, okay, here I am. But if I don't do this, I now owe them money, but I need to take their money to hire somebody else to build it. And we started the project and things were good. And then the developers I was working with came back and said, oh, yeah, it's actually going to be 3 times as much as what we told you. And I'm like, I don't have 3 times as much. I don't have that money. So then I realized I had to go raise money from investors to get it done. And I've never met a single person in my life who had raised money for a technology company. I bootstrapped my first company. And banks don't loan to tech companies, by the way, startups like that. So you have to find these investors. And that was from 2000 and yeah, and then the global pandemic hit. So between 2000 and 2023, me raising a little over $3 million to get this thing off and running. And wow, yeah, we want to talk about resilience and moments that if I had quit, I would have failed, I would have been bankrupt, I would have let people down. It's been a journey, but again, that mantra, just keep taking the next right step, got me through it.
Must have had a lot of sleepless nights.
Yes, I had a lot of sleepless nights.
The way you said it, like to put it lightly, yes.
Yes, yeah. But I'm
You know,
here. I
yeah.
lived through it.
Yeah, but like Sherry, I'm glad we're sharing this here, and I'm going to come to you in just a bit on this here, but I'm because we get to hear all the the end state. We get to read the story afterwards. Like we don't get to go through the montage with you, and then
Yeah.
later on you're like yes, like we see all these things that are shining moments, but then this is why I like to talk about the becoming, or I talk about we see the outside, but we don't like we. I have a mentor who says we often compare how we feel on the inside with how others look on the outside. You know, how
Yeah.
we feel on the inside. And we're like, we couldn't do that. And it's like you're like, hey, look, I set out to do something, and it
Yeah.
turned into a very different thing in order to get it done. And I had to change what was coming. What's striking me is that it felt like commitment had to come first. And the reason I'm saying that is I recognize for myself how much I'm trying to protect myself nowadays. I'm like, I have the 2 kids, I have the mortgage, I have something that is working in the business. Like there's this thing that makes sense that I want, but am I like do I want to risk it? Do I want like or can I just like try and make sure it's all gonna work out,
Mhm.
And so there's something in what you're saying. I might come back to it here, but I'm really grateful that you shared this story. Thank you, Sherry.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam, what's coming for you?
Yeah, basically what you said about the mortgage and the 2 kids, and I've got a wife and a son, and an elderly dog.
Yeah.
And they're when you're the person that brings in the money, like you look at your skill set and you say, what is my most reliable income? What can I do? And it's very hard to let that go. And you hear all the time in these motivational stories about, and then I took the leap of faith and everything worked out. But deep down, a lot of people it doesn't work out for. So you have to have a plan on how to shift over into that new way of working. And Niamh, I can tell by the look in your face, you definitely had that journey.
Yeah.
And
As you're talking, I like make it real for us, Adam. Share with us a time here where this came in. We're about to start wrapping up. I want to make sure we get to
yeah.
be
So
off with
so
you.
you need to know a little bit of context around educational psychology in the UK. We get paid, we can get paid on a locum basis, and what that means is you get paid per assessment, and it's good money. And it's not, for me, it's not the most rewarding type of work. I don't see the impact. So I had to go out and basically act as a salesperson. I am a psychologist at my core. I think in psychological theories. I wake up in psychological theory. I am not a salesperson. And I need help in that regards. And sitting down in front of a head teacher, and then they say, how is this going to help me? And I kind of think, well, the big picture is it helps everyone, but then I think, oh God, I haven't grounded it down to how it actually helps the person sitting in front of me. And that took a long time for me to learn. So there was a long time where I was working for nothing, and just looking at my bank account, going, "Is this going to hold out to the point where I figure out this system, that it becomes profitable, or is it a case that I'm going to have to go back to what I was doing?" And it really, that, what is it they say, pressure makes diamonds or something like that. It was one of those moments where I was like, I need to learn how to be a bit of a salesperson. And Cher, I wonder if this was in your journey. In psychology, we talk a lot about consultations and about drawing out what the other person's viewpoints are. And it was very hard for me to then shift that into, I'm going to tell you what they think. and,
Mm.
and you're going to believe what I'm selling, which is totally not what I was trained on. So that was a big mindset shift for me, and it would made me feel really uncomfortable because the entrepreneur side was the naive element of me, whereas the psychologist side of me was the very confident side of me, and the two were so far apart. And I spent about 3 years in the entrepreneur side going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And then once I get into the school and start applying the theory, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. This is going to work out.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I had the same when I left to be an entrepreneur. The for me, I was always a consultant, even when I was an inside consultant. So the kind of change management and selling ideas was a business that I was used to, but it was the asking. It was making the ask. It was saying, "Oh, I knew how I could help them. I knew the value, but it was asking for the money. That was the hardest thing for me to overcome."
Yeah,
I'm
I
grateful.
know that feeling.
Yeah, third person hand up here, right? I'm a community person. I'm a facility. I like we can do all this, and now get into the actual skill sets that are required here to make this all successful. I really appreciate you all like letting us play in this way, right? I'm gonna end us off with we're gonna end with one last question. Uh, that's not entirely true. So what I'm going to say here is this. I love us to wrap up with this. If you can let us know what's something that you're taking on right now that really excites you, right? What's something that you're taking on that really excites you, and what's the best way for outliers to continue down the journey with you? We'll do those two questions together, and then I have one last question to bring us all home, and that's like the way I end everything. Okay. So Sherry, we'll start with you. What's something you're taking on right now that really excites you, and what's the best way that outliers can go down that journey with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned a little bit about my partnership with Microsoft. So what is really exciting me is getting the Sure Impact platform is starting to grow and expand and making a huge difference for nonprofits across the globe. And so if anyone's interested in that and want to learn more, I invite them to go check out sureimpact.com. And also, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love building community on LinkedIn. I'm sure that's how you and I were connected. So those are some two ways they can follow the journey.
Thanks, and Adam.
For me, the thing that I've just started, and yeah, I wasn't actually planning to do this, but with your
Go for
permission,
it.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
for it.
plug my podcast.
Yeah.
I've set up with a colleague of mine called Mike Lane, and it's called Between Two Psychs with Dr. Adam McCartney and Mike Lane. And we have just launched, funny enough, the day of this recording, we've just put
Mhm.
out our first episode. We
I'm
talk
snapping.
everything. Yeah, thank you, man. And we talk everything about psychology and education and how to bring the whole thing together. And what I'm really hoping from that journey is that people can sort of get to feel my message. People can get what when I say I want to marry up teaching and psychology, they get a feeling of what I'm talking about, because I can say that till the cows come home and it doesn't mean anything for anyone. But when you go and you log on and you see me on Spotify, hopefully you can appreciate that, and we get into all sorts of things. We ask people to give us questions of things that is on their mind, and we bring on guests. And I'm hoping that is going to open up a lot of opportunities for me and the psychology world as a whole. And I'm over here in England, in the UK, and hopefully I can bridge a few more gaps with you guys in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this here. So remind us the name of the podcast one more time.
Between Two Sykes, and
Nice.
Sykes is PSYCH.
All
Love it.
right. All right. So what we're gonna do, the last question we do to wrap everything up here, and not liars, I'm gonna make an ask of you. So you like we've had a great conversation so far. I ask that you share this out with your world. But the way I like to do this is what I call the one person, one conversation at a time initiative, which is share it out broadly, make sure people know about the great work that's being done here. But if you can also find one person in your world who like this conversation was actually made for, and invite them to come listen to this here. Something tells me that like we can have a splash in the pan with one share overall, or we can go out and make sure that this keeps getting to the right next person so that decades from now it keeps doing the work of supporting people because there's just a lot of gold in this here. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would mean the absolute world to me. So we'll wrap up here with our last question. And last question here, we're going to put outliers over to the side. Thank you so much for being so generous with all of them. Um, uh, Adam called this out as a reflective practice. I've never used those words before, but like what I do know that every time I bring people together and have a conversation, it's to help shape and shift the world, right, or your world. And so, if would you mind sharing with us if there's any insights that you got, any takeaways that you got for yourself here? So outliers are taken care of. In what ways are you taking something from this conversation that you would like to use outside of it? All right. So we'll start with you, Adam, and then we'll wrap with you, Sheri.
For me, I like that last thing that you said. Well, it wasn't the last thing; it was a few minutes ago about that taking the time to actually just ask for the money and knowing your worth. I think that's what it's coming away from this. Sherry's shared quite a lot of her journey and about how she went from a very tricky position to what sounds like a thriving company, and that I'm not quite as far along as Sherry is in her journey, and I think I'm just going to try and take a bit of that, just ask for it.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you,
for
Adam.
it. Go for it, Adam. Yeah. Well, I have found a community. That's what I found. And I'm really grateful to have two new friends that are trying to do amazing things in the world. And I hope, like, I'm honest, I hope I found two new friends and that I can
You
continue to build
certainly have.
connections and relationships from this conversation.
I feel you. I like that's how I feel it as well. Like there's something really awesome about what y'all are doing. Thank you for like again. Outliers. You don't know this, but before when everyone comes on, I say you answer the outlier call. You got a random email from a random person, and they showed up. But like we're surrounded by greatness here, and thank you for playing the game that you do. We are friends. We are going to keep this going. Like I think Adam talked about how kids learn. I'm like one of the things I learned about with kids and friends is like they just go and say, "You're my best friend now." And that's how it is. So it has been declared. Outliers, thank you all for here. Please go and share this with the person who this would really resonate with. And until the next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.